what's happening, man? Reminds me of that David Bowie song. Jiggy play guitar. It's a great name, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Presenting.
I'm Mike Massey, and you can catch me on Jiggy Jag TV and see a few of my trick shots there. Thanks very much.
Jiggy Jaguar.
I never knew what freedom was until I saw you lose yours.
Welcome to the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio program, coast to coast and boulder to boulder on TuneIn, iTunes, Radio Loyalty, and Stitcher. We've got a great guest coming up here in a few moments here on iHeartRadio and also 50-plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world. 2 Central, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, and 1 PM Mountain Standard is when we come to you live each and every Monday through Friday. We've got a great guest with us today here on the telephone. Before we do that, let's tell you about one of our fantastic new marketing partners at Transmedia Worldwide. It's a great new crowdfunding campaign. It's barnraiser.us. Farm fencing for the Heritage Meadows Farm. That's right. This comes from Ellen McCreamy. This is barnraiser.us. barnraiser.us. Search farm fencing for Heritage Meadows Farm and tell them you heard about it here, Transmedia Worldwide. We've got a great guest with us today. We've got an interesting guest today with us. He is just an amazing gentleman. Check out zliberty.com, and it's Dr. M. Jiggy Jasser with us today. Dr. Jasser, how are you?
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Now, I heard about you listening to Glenn Beck and a few others, and I was immediately taken away by your intelligence, your candor, everything to do with today's headlines and all sorts of different things. First of all, give us a little bit on your background, my friend, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you do over there.
Well, thank you. I grew up in Wisconsin. My family is originally from Syria. My grandfather and father ended up escaping in the mid-'60s after the Ba'athists who hatched Hafiz Assad and then Bashar, who we're all hearing about the crimes against humanity they've been doing. They left. My family left in '66 and came to the U.S. as political refugees in '67, and I was born a few months after that. Grew up as a Muslim in Wisconsin and was on a Navy scholarship through medical school and served 11 years. My billets included on the USS El Paso and served in Operation Restore Hope in Somalia. My last billet was as a physician to Congress from 97 to 99. As a Navy doc, and then I've been in private practice since '99 in Phoenix. After 9/11, some of us Muslims got together and said, the people speaking on behalf of our faith and claiming to represent the Muslim community are actually the problem. They're part of the global Islamist movement of political Islam and the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're really the problem, not the solution. It's sort of like trying to deal with drug-related violence and talking to the meth distributors about how to fix drug-related violence.
Yep.
So we formed the American Islamic Forum. Our mission statement was not to counter terrorism, which we see as a symptom, but our mission statement was to separate mosque and state and protect the U.S. Constitution through the advancement of liberty. And the reason we said separation of mosque and state is our First Amendment, our Establishment Clause, is the antidote to global political Islam, and not only ISIS, the Islamic State, but all Islamic states, which we see as the main threat. And then this is back in 2002 when we formed our organization. ISIS wasn't even existent, but we knew that Al-Qaeda was simply a symptom of the fact that Islam was still in the same stage Christianity was back in the 15th, 16th, and then ultimately that hatched the American Revolution against theocracy.
Dr. Jasser, why has... I guess, why has an organization like yours sprung up? Because I would think that after 9/11 and after some of the things that took place, that there would be a lot of people who would be on that side of the coin or whatever and come speak out. Why did you guys have to form an organization for this to happen?
Well, it's interesting in that most of the organizations, be it the Council on American Islamic Relations or the Muslim Student Association that is affiliated with the majority of the mosques in America, are part not only of the religion of Islam, but part of a political movement, which is what I call Islamism or political Islam. And thus they are not only look at religion as a personal faith, but they look upon it as a political movement. And in the Middle East, that gives rise to parties like the Muslim Brotherhood. In America, they don't form political parties because it's not part of our tradition here. So ultimately, they used American naivete about that to say, well, they represent Muslims. So the majority of Muslims don't identify with those Islamist groups, and they've not felt the need to organize themselves. But I think the Arab awakening since 2011 has taught us that Muslims need to step up and fill that void in order to show that we believe as Muslims, not only as Americans, but as Muslims, that liberty demands that we reject theocracy. And ultimately, my hero, people talk about heroes being Martin Luther and other Christian reformers. My heroes actually are Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine, who rejected and stood against the establishment of religion and government, and that allowed people to be closer to God. So Muslims, because we're such a minority in America, have never really felt an urgency to form organizations because there's no chance of the Muslim Brotherhood taking over America. But in Egypt, where they take over the government, and we saw that happen, they had to step up, and the millions went to the street to reject the Brotherhood.
We've got Dr. Jasser with us today, joining us on the telephone. The website is American Islamic Forum for Democracy. You can find them on Facebook. You can also find them on Twitter, AIF Democracy. And the whole thing that I've noticed with a lot of stories, and it seems like that the mainstream media and even some of the alternative media, they don't want to deal with some of the angles that you're presenting. How exactly have you been able to get your message out? Because I listened to your interview when you were on Glenn Beck's program, and you were presenting a lot of points that the mainstream media and even the alternative media are just not interested in covering. How do you get your message out there? Because you have a very good message. You're a great speaker and a heck of a guy.
Well, God bless you. I mean, you've just summarized the bane of our existence. We have all the energy of wanting to speak up and get our voice heard, and people say, well, where are the moderate voices of Islam? And unfortunately, many of the voices on the left want to cater to the victim-mongering voices that say being a Muslim is a collective entity, and we're all victims of American bigotry, and forget the fact that most Muslims on the planet are being killed by other Muslims, be it in Iran or Saudi Arabia or Syria or Egypt. Forget that. To them, the main problem is Americans and the right. And unfortunately, that's the narrative where the discussion about Islam is relegated to a left versus right phenomena, where one side says Islam is a religion of peace and nothing to talk about here, it's just a bunch of criminals or psychotics. And the other side does have an element within the right that says that, well, Islam is the problem, and even the moderate Muslims are lying to you. So between the ping pong ball there, the majority of Americans are getting confused, and the moderates often don't get the voice that we need to have, which is really the only solution, because you're talking about a fifth of humanity. So we can't, the strategy can't be to ignore discussions of religion, which is sad in a country where it was founded on religious debate, and yet it also can't have a strategy to say that we want to convert a fifth of the world's population, which is a doomed strategy also.
We've got Dr. Jasser with us today here in our broadcast. He joins us live, and Doctor, that there is a lot going on. A gentleman that we have on our program each and every Wednesday, IQ Al-Razoli. He is a former Muslim. He is since converted to Christianity. He speaks out about the negativity of Islam and things like this. There's a lot of folks that are speaking out about this, but your organization is educating folks What are people like Al Rizzoli and some of these other folks missing when former Muslims are speaking out about it, and they're basically condemning the book, and they're condemning the religion? What are they missing?
Well, who is far be it for me to say that they're missing something. I mean,
yeah.
When you see ISIS doing what they're doing, and the boot camp for ISIS being Saudi Arabia, and on the Shia side being Iran, and you look at sad narratives like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who left Islam also because of the female abuse and genital mutilation that she had to go through in Somalia, and all these things are done in the name of Islam. Far be it for any Muslim to say, well, why did they leave, and this is why they shouldn't have left. The bottom line is they should be teaching moments for Muslims to say, you know what, we have a problem that we have to deal with, and we're in denial if we don't recognize that these former Muslims are signs of a symptom that they're raising the red flag about what we need to address. And we can either deny it, which is what most Muslim apologists do, or we can address it and say that just like Christianity for hundreds of years and centuries, it took 18 centuries until Christendom really understood that to render unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God. And I think Islam has yet to do that. And ultimately, I will tell you that the Islam that I learned is not compatible with many of the interpretations that former Muslims believe is in the Quran. And I think that this is the debate, is that can we take the Arabic, it's not about the English translation, it's about, can the Arabic script of the Quran be reinterpreted in ways commensurate with modernity? And in my book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam, talks about that very issue. And I think that ultimately, there are ways to separate history of what happened in the 7th century under the initial message of Muhammad versus religion and faith and the principles of faith of Islam, which we have to be careful not to say that everything in the 7th century, where there was no country on the planet that was based on liberty at that time, is applicable to today, where Muslims need to, I think, learn from America, not be critical of America.
We've got a great guest with us today. Dr. Jasser joins us here on our broadcast, coast to coast and border to border, on TuneIn, iTunes, and Radio Loyalty, and of course, iHeartRadio. Now, Dr. Jasser, as we wrap up here with you, my friend, I appreciate you being with us today. I definitely want to have you back because we do a Tuesday roundtable with Donald Mazzella and Dan Perkins from thehill.com, and I definitely know that they would love to talk to you at some point, so I will be in touch with your scheduler, and we'll see what we can get worked out there. But my final comment here, and I guess my final question for you is, I overheard yesterday on ABC News on the radio, they were talking about how the numbers for ISIS recruits and things are skyrocketing, and they're skyrocketing mostly with women. Are women just not understanding that in the radicalized version of Islam and in the world of ISIS, they're not going to get treated really well? Why is this? Why is the numbers skyrocketing more in female joiners, I guess, of ISIS? Did you happen to have any results or studies or anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is the populations of Muslims that are vulnerable to radicalization are those, for example, the captive audiences in prisons, and that the imams get into their brain that jihad is the only way, and that you ultimately demonize everyone who's not a Muslim or who's even a moderate Muslim. And the same thing with many women, and especially converts and others that are sort of new to the understanding of Islam and are often doing so to seek redemption and other corrections of what they feel are their own insecurities and inadequacies. So they will take it hook, line, and sinker, as we say, and ultimately feel that their only answer, no matter what, is to take. And if you look at the videos that ISIS puts out, they're not going to, some of the beheadings, believe it or not, are recruitment videos, but they also show this utopian sense of, what they're bringing is this happiness and joy. And many of them, when they're interviewed after they've been there a few months, say, oh my God, what did I come to? And they didn't realize what they actually ended up doing. And this is why our movement has a Muslim Liberty Project that tries to tell youth that your identity is the most important. And if that American identity is to protect your freedom, you can never be radicalized. While the ISIS recruits are told that their Muslim identity is the key and that'll take them to heaven. So that's the battle with the hearts and souls of Muslims.
We've got a great guest with us today, Dr. Jiggy Jaguar. He is the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, the AIFD. And I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for coming on, and I will definitely be in touch. I definitely want to have you back when we have a little bit more time. But thanks for coming on today, my friend.
Anytime. Really appreciate it. God bless.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We're going to take a time out, and when we come back, yes, indeed, we got another big one coming up. Coming up more. Also, check out JiggyJaguar.com. More information can be obtained on us. Yes, I've been called everything but a racist to an a-hole the last couple weeks, and I will not dispute the a-hole part of it. We'll take a time out. Come back with more.